What's up, y'all? It's 10 at 3 time at Tennessee. How are you? Hope you're doing well here on this Wednesday, February the 4th, 2026 here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Got Lord of the Streams Tom Barclay back after a couple of days hiatus.
Yeah,
he was allowed back in the building.
They allowed me back in, thankfully.
We tried to change the locks.
I mean, they did. It was a little bit difficult. I had to sneak in through one of the windows, but otherwise it was pretty.
Other than that, though, it's going pretty well because we do have Ms. Emilie Ray Cochran in here today.
Woo-hoo!
Emilie, how are you today?
I'm great. I was just saying that I feel like every time I do this podcast, we've got Tom.
Yeah, I guess
again we tried to.
I'm the
change
harbinger
the locks.
of Emily.
I do not. I love you, Tom. But I love my girl Ainsley too, and I'm a little jealous when
We'll make sure to schedule that out one day so Ainsley's in here for you.
I mean,
but I love you. It's okay.
Well,
it's okay. You're loved too. Everyone is loved. Everybody love everybody. That's how we roll here. I'll tell you though, Chris Beard may not love the officials. We're going to talk about that obviously later. Tennessee picked up an 84-66 win over the Rebel Black Bears of Ole Miss last night. The Admiral Akbars. If you go back far enough, you know what I'm talking about. That was a big win for Tennessee and an interesting one for a lot of reasons. The Nate Ament show in the second half, especially, boy, he put on a show across the way there at Food City Center down there by the river. And we got a lot to discuss before that, though, because this news has come quick, but it's not permanent. So let's not get all excited yet, everybody.
I'm trying not to get. I'm on the edge of my seat here. What's going on?
Well, Joey Aguilar, Tennessee's quarterback, who you may have said former Tennessee quarterback, now maybe not so former Tennessee quarterback after all. He has gone into Knox Chancery Court and gotten approved a temporary restraining order that, at least temporarily, as the name says, keeps him eligible to play college football for what would be
15 days.
15 days, and so the hearing will be, we think, either Friday or next Friday, so we'll see if there's an injunction there or what's going on. There's a whole lot of legal mumbo-jumbo going on there. The bottom line here is that this is, and we'll talk about everything this could mean, right? We got a long time. We got an hour to sit here and parse over this. But I think for me anyways, the news here is that if the season started today, he would technically be eligible to play. Now, right now, I think, interestingly, he's not enrolled at the University of Tennessee, but he can be again in March.
I did see some reports saying that he is enrolled.
That he is actually enrolled? Okay.
But I was seeing,
I don't know when the dropout deadline is, honestly. We've had a lot of stuff to do today. I have not gone in and looked into that. The last I saw that he wasn't.
Adam Sparks did
that
say
he is
that
actually enrolled?
He has a source or a UT spokesperson confirmed with him that
okay.
He has
No, Adam, I trust Adam completely. If Adam reported that, you can take that to the bank, I think. So, yes, he is now enrolled, because if he hadn't been, he would have had to wait until the mini term, I believe in March, that a mini term starts where you can do that. So he is eligible to play right now. I guess he's eligible to go through winter workouts and all of that, pending what goes on here legally. And then, of course, this does not mean he is eligible for the season. It means he is at least, like, he can't be punished for being eligible right now. Like, Tennessee cannot be punished for having him do official team functions right now. And the reason you're saying, where's the urgency on this? Well, the urgency, at least according to, and I understand why, according to Aguilar's representatives, is that you got to make a decision on the NFL draft pretty soon, whether, if you're going to stay in that thing and go work out for that, which means you may go to Florida or California or somewhere and start working out, probably California in his case since he's from there, and go work out, or you stay in school and get going with your new Tennessee teammates, right? Some of your old Tennessee teammates as well. But it's really complicated, Emily, and I have thoughts on this they're all over the place. But I'll cut to the chase immediately and say, to the extent that my opinion has value, which again, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, it probably doesn't, I don't think he should be eligible to play. With that said, I don't think Diego Pavia should have been eligible to play last year, or Miles Kitzelman. I don't think Charles Bediako should be playing for Alabama right now. Yeah. But we'll separate the Bediako thing, because this is more Pavia related, because it's more apples and apples there. Yeah. The argument there is that, and it's an understandable legal argument, and I do not blame, I've said this from the beginning, I don't blame Joey Aguilar for doing this. I don't blame Pavia. I don't blame Bediako. I don't blame the basketball player trying to say even though he played 10 NBA games, he can come back and play college ball. I don't blame anybody here for trying. People say, go get a job. Why don't you just go get a real job? Well, you know what? The way college athletes are paid right now, by gosh, that is a job, and it's a high-paying job. So, yes, you can take that argument and shove it, in my opinion. But I think my problem with all of this is where it stops and who it's impacting, because what may be fair or unfair to Aguilar, and it's a fair argument that with the way NIL is structured these days, it is significantly financially problematic for guys who didn't have the opportunity to play all 4 NCAA Division I years, right, or NCAA years. And so that's a valid argument. And also, you could argue that you get your 4 years and the financial benefits of it too. My problem is beyond that, and we'll talk about this more in a little bit. I just think there's no way this story ends if it goes this path without a lot of 18 to 21-year-old athletes getting shafted down the road. That's my huge concern. It's not just about the here and now. It's about the later also in the big picture. And when you talk about what's fair or unfair to Joey Aguilar or to Diego Pavia, you're talking about a relatively small number of people versus the number of people this could be very, very bad for down the road, and the number of people that could be. So there's 2 different arguments here, right? One of them is what this means for Tennessee. It's good news for Tennessee. If you're Tennessee, you want Joey Aguilar to be your quarterback next season because of those are your options. And if you're Joey Aguilar, you want to play college football next season.
Yeah.
And so that we can go first and foremost with, regardless of how anybody feels about it. If he's able to play for Tennessee, I think that obviously changes the outlook for next season.
Absolutely. If I'm a Tennessee fan, I wouldn't want it any other way. I don't think there are Tennessee fans out there who wouldn't want this to work in favor of Joey Aguilar against the NCAA. And yeah, I mean, Tennessee wasn't able to pick up a transfer quarterback from the portal. So they were kind of,
Hey, Ryan Staub's sitting here catching
sorry.
strays.
I'm so sorry.
He is who he is. He's not a known starter.
But yeah, exactly. But yeah, so, Tennessee fans were, we're going to ride with George McIntyre. We're going to ride with Faison, see what we can do. But obviously, if there is a case where we can get Joey Aguilar back in on the roster and playing and starting for us for one more season, then absolutely they're going to take that. But you did mention, a bunch of other stuff about whether or not they should or should not be able to receive the eligibility, and totally, you mentioned Charles Bediako as well. I think 2 very different case scenarios.
Yeah, this is more like the Pavia.
For sure. Yeah. But yeah, I think the biggest difference there is obviously Joey had never had an opportunity at the pro levels yet. But yeah, I do understand where you're coming from with the timing of things too. They need to jump on this very quickly. It needs to be this Friday, next Friday. I mean, I'm sure his representatives are pushing for a sooner date to finalize all of this and figure it all out because, yeah, I mean, if he's not going to be able to play at Tennessee, then he needs to look towards the future and make those cutoffs for the NFL draft and all those things as well.
And I think there's so many layers to this cake here. I think you have to separate the Aguilar story from the fairness of it. You can just look at specifically for Joey Aguilar. It is, again, a continuation of what could be a potential fairy tale story of a guy who is a JUCO walk-on to begin his career. Then the COVID thing happens, and he's not even the starter as a walk-on JUCO player, and he's about to quit football and go become a firefighter, right? Which, again, you talk about firefighter in California, that's some cowboy stuff. You talk about a risky job. Seriously, thank you for the service for the people who do that, because that is a job. That is a job. But and so he ends up transfer, then he goes to a different JUCO, decides to keep playing football. He's riding the bus like an hour each way, basically, to play for this season, the train. And so, well, bus train, depending on where you are and what you call it, I know. Some people
he
would
was
say,
detailing cars too.
There
Crazy.
you go.
Yeah, I talked to Lydia, his mom, earlier this year, and
it was a
great
great story.
family.
It was a great story.
Great
Yes,
family.
yes. And 100%. I don't think anyone would anything bad for them. It's just a matter of this is there's different
he's
opinions
played
on this.
7 years of college football.
So that all happens, and then he ends up being good enough that he gets to go to Appalachian State out of his second JUCO, but he's not a starter there. Then the starter gets hurt. He comes in or whatever, plays really well, gets the job, does really well, becomes a record-setting quarterback there, then transfers to UCLA where there's going to be an opening, and then all of a sudden after he goes through spring practice as the guy, they bring in Nico, and then
Quarterback
he's like,
swap.
well, what am I supposed to do here? So Tennessee's like, well, we got a spot. And then he comes over, learns the offense in like 3 seconds, and puts together a pretty good season for Tennessee, all things considered. And so it is a great story. And I don't think anyone out there would be wishing any ill will on him whatsoever. If the best case scenario for Tennessee is Joey Aguilar being his quarterback next season, at least going into it. I think that I don't know how you could maybe disagree with that. You could say there's stuff in the run game, when to pull, when not to. There's things Aguilar's got to improve. But the way Josh Heupel deals with quarterbacks, they usually do improve quite a bit. So that part I don't have any concerns about whatsoever. My issue here, it's not even necessarily that there's an argument to be made that if you're a Tennessee fan, should you feel any sort of guilt about this? No, and I'll tell you why. The whole when you're a kid and, if everybody else is doing it, so will you. Not a great argument that a parent or a teacher ever wants to hear, but this is a deal where Tennessee's trying to compete for championships, and they're competing against people who last season, a quarterback who drugged them up and down their own stadium and bloodied their noses and beat them to a pulp in their own yard, was someone who was taking advantage of this opportunity. So, yes, you could say Tennessee has already been, victimized isn't the right word, but like Tennessee's taken the business end of this. So if they want to now deliver the business end of this, okay, I'm not going to sit here and say that's right or wrong. That's just people doing what they like. Tennessee is in the business of winning football games. Josh Heupel's in the business of winning football games, and that, call it what it is. And there are repercussions for coaches and athletic directors and administrators and players if they don't win. So they should do everything they can within the rules as they exist to win games. But you have to look at the big picture, I think, here too. And that's where, and you say, why does this matter? Well, you're talking about completely changing the fabric of the way college sports are run, because if JUCO seasons don't count, I'm not, again, we don't have a crystal ball here, but it's not hard to get from point A to point Z on this, where what happens is there will now be players who would be Power 5 players or Power 4 players who now become Group of 4 players. There will be Group of 4 players who now become, FCS players. There will now be FCS players who become Division II players. There will now be Division II players who become Division III players, and there will be Division III players who cannot play college football. And the reason that would be happening is because everybody who is not an absolute Power 4 is going to be trying to get older guys like Indiana has done to go out there and beat you. And what's going to happen is then eventually this is just a farm system where you go to JUCO as single A, and then wherever program you can go to next to, that's double A. Then you can go to Group of 5, and that's triple A. Then you can go, and so you're developing a professional system. And what's going to happen there is you'll have a bunch of 18 to 21-year-olds who aren't going to be able to play college football unless they go to JUCO, which, again, with no disrespect, my mom was a junior college dean. A junior college education is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But there will be people who will be starting their academic careers at places where they could be at better schools. And so this affects everything. and you are completely ripping up the fabric of what college sports is. And that's why I say, is this fair to Joey Aguilar? That's one thing. Mm-hmm. Is this fair to Diego Pavia? That's over here. How about everyone else who's going to play this sport for the next 50, 100, 200 years? That's where, again, like I don't blame Tennessee for trying this. I don't blame Aguilar for trying this. And I'm not going to sit here and say any of them are bad or wrong or anything for doing it. But, and I hope that legally people are very careful with this, because you are going to be setting a precedent, and the tentacles of it could be really, really bad for college sports. Really bad.
Yeah. Remember how the other day we were talking about Charles Bediaku being the guinea pig of all of this? I guess that wouldn't really work here, because there's...
Well, Pavia was the guinea pig, I guess.
Yeah, I guess that
and he was a
the
Heisman
case.
Finalist
Yeah.
at Vanderbilt.
Yeah, so I feel like the ripple effect of this is already kind of out there, though, because it's not... Because they've already made exceptions for one player, right? So, and then all these other college football players are on this case, right? So do you know where I'm getting at with this? So, like, I don't think that allowing Joey Aguilar to have an extra year will necessarily stop it.
No, it won't. But and this is obviously, this would be a state ruling too, which then would have to be impacted across the country. And so there's precedent. So it probably would be, if we're being honest. But I just, you've already seen in the first year of some of these changes, a quarterback at Vanderbilt almost wins the Heisman, and he doesn't win it because of a quarterback at Indiana who was almost as old as him. And Indiana, which, as we all know, historically, the worst program in FBS football. Look it up. Historically, the worst until this season, the losingest. Northwestern passed them. Congratulations, Northwestern. You are now the biggest loser. But it's that team was the oldest team out there. And it was older than everybody else that played. And it physically beat up on younger players, and it won a title. That's not to take anything away from Pavia or Vanderbilt or Mendoza or Indiana or Cignetti or anybody like that. They did not break rules, as we know. But look at Vanderbilt, look at Indiana, and if you can't put all that together and say this is what this is already doing to college football,
yeah,
you're out of your stinking mind. I mean, we don't even have to look at 10, 20, 30, 40 years down the road yet. Look at what just happened.
Yeah, well, I think that's all. I mean, like you said, Tennessee's going to take advantage of it like any other school would in that case. So, but yeah, I mean, there's a difference between, us not agreeing with it and it already happening.
Sure.
I don't think there's a world in which we go back in time and transition all of that and go back to the way things used to be. I think it's permanently going to be not. Maybe there are boundaries and cutoffs we can enforce legally to not be so wishy-washy with different players and individual cases and things like that. But yeah, I don't know. I just think it's definitely a good sign. And there's, like you said, two ways to look at it. Good sign for Tennessee, really good sign for fans who want to see Joey Aguilar put on an orange and white uniform again. But yeah, it's definitely, I mean, he's played seven seasons of college football. And the biggest argument in the grand scheme of things is that he's only played 3 NCAA college football seasons. So he does have, the standard is 4 with the window being 5. So I don't know. I think that there is definitely a case for him to be made, but only because of, the reason Diego Pavia had.
And I agree. And we're slightly overdue for a break now. Let's go ahead and get to that. But when we come back, I got a couple more things, and I'm sure Emily's got a couple more things, because this is not, we're not going to sit here and say this is a simple thing, because it's not. But fortunately, we don't have to squeeze the whole thing into 2 or 3 minutes. We got an hour to sit here and talk about it, and we will do that. But before we do that, we're going to continue that conversation in about 2 minutes. We're going to get to Secret Time right here on 10 at 3.
Secret Time. Secret
All right.
Time.
Secret Time.
2 minutes of Secret Time.
Yeah, it's all there's. It's everybody knows this. I mean, I think I said this when we first started doing the show, that my biggest concern in coming to this format was trying to take nuanced discussion and distill it into, 30 seconds here, a couple minutes here, there. And so I'm so glad that we have this show every day, because I think it just both things are important. You have to be able to distill it for a couple minutes to get the point across to like the broad spectrum of people.
Yeah.
You got to bring
you have
people
to
into
bring
the
the news.
Yeah,
Yes.
bring them into the conversation. What's going on there?
Tell them the news too.
And then you filter them in to like, okay, if you want to, and that's why I'm glad we're doing all the other stuff on all the other shows today. Like, hey, by the way, we're talking about this more on here because we can have more of a detailed conversation on it here, because I just there is no way to sit here and say this is right, this is wrong, this is that. It's this is one. There is zero pure black or white in this. This whole thing is a shade of gray. It's just which, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, but we're watching the what do you call it, the sausage getting made in the process right now, right? It's a changing landscape,
Which is not the best way to enjoy the sausage, if I'm being honest.
but it is.
There's
it
Holler
is
Farms in my family. You don't want to see it.
It really is fascinating to see all this kind of shaking out right now.
It's
About
weird
30 seconds.
because you think some of these discussions should be had, and you think of them in like dark, smoky rooms and stuff. I'm like, no, we're just doing this all out in the open. We're just airing all this laundry out. Everybody can see this,
For sure. All right, we are about 10 away.
How now, brown cow? I always wanted to say that.
Hello, brown cow. Hello, brown cow.
Welcome back to 10 at 3. Wes Rucker here alongside Emily Ray Cochran and Tom Barclay here on a lovely, lovely Wednesday, February the 4th, 2026. I say lovely. It's really pretty nasty.
Today is not as
It's a lot warmer.
Yeah, it's warmer. That is the lovely part of it, but it is kind of going to be nasty and gross out.
Yeah, it is. And it's particularly nasty and gross when right now, just a couple miles away there at my house, there's I got the local you got a plumbing company and got a local utilities board sitting there arguing over whose fault it is that things have gone wrong out there. I'm like, okay, y'all sit and talk about, y'all figure this out, because I know who's not at fault here.
Hopefully the sewage is not spilling out into the streets.
Ew.
No, I wouldn't
Nothing
go
like
that far. It's just a really old house and pipes connecting, and did they put them into the thing where they're supposed? And I'm like, I don't know who's at fault here. I know who's not. That's not us. Okay, y'all figure this out, because we didn't do it. Y'all did this. So we're figuring all that out right now, and we have great relationships with all of them. I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus. I didn't even mention any of the names. See, look how polite I am.
Just don't mention where you're from.
Yeah, there you go.
It'll be easy to tell.
Yeah, pretty. You can probably get to 2 + 2 on that one. But here's what we're talking about with all this Aguilar stuff, and it reminds me of like anytime I put on like either a movie or a game, and my son, who's 4, is sitting there with me, first thing he almost always says is, wait, who's the bad guy and who's the good guy? So if we're watching a movie, he wants to know who's the bad guy and who's the good guy. And if it's a game, wait, Daddy, who's the good guys, who's the bad guys? So like he knows which team he wants to see do well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how we get older, and we still sort of think the same way. And the problem is that just doesn't work in some cases. Like this is not, in this whole college eligibility, what even are college sports anymore, I don't know if there's a crystal clear bad actor in this. I will say that the closest thing to it historically is the NCAA for being obstinate for years and stubborn for years and selfish and greedy for years, and opening up all of these, not putting a lid on this when it would have been a reasonable thing to do and everybody would have been okay with it. Even if it just kicked the can, it would have kicked it a little bit. So here we are now having all these issues. And it's not, it really isn't simple. Like, it's not to sit here and say that what is happening here, like Aguilar, not the bad guy. Pavia, not the bad guy. I wouldn't say. Tennessee, Vandy, not the bad guy. Even to a certain extent, the NCAA, not the bad guy. The problem is that it's a bad situation. And it's a messy one. And it's why I think and I hope, I mean, in case you've, seen, unless you're living under a rock, let's just say things with the government at every level right now, a little dicey. A little dicey. They got some big fish they're trying to fry right now, all right? And there's a lot of, this is not the program for that conversation. I'm only saying that to say that I think they may have bigger priorities at the moment than college athletics, right? I would think that we all could mostly agree on that. No matter you're this side, you're middle, wherever you are. It's messy out there, right? We can all agree on that point. And so it is not, and maybe right now I would still say still should not be the top priority when there's other things going on in the world that are far more important and far more serious. This is, however, a big business. This is, however, a big form of entertainment in the country. It is something that eventually does need to get sorted. And I wish, like I do all the time, sometimes, not all the time, sometimes, don't you ever want to be like, why don't y'all just listen to me? I got an idea.
No. You
never do that, ever.
No.
I sit 5 feet from you every day. You should really be telling the truth here.
I do.
Everybody does it, is what I'm saying.
Oh, where are you going? Oh.
I have ideas, and I wish that
you got to call up the
people would
NCAA.
think about these. Oh, they don't love my calls. Neither does Josh Heupel. Nobody does. All right, and fair enough. Just go to a flat 5 years across the board.
Yeah,
flat 5 years. Most
including
kids,
JUCO.
Yes. When you enroll in a college class, it starts a 5-season clock. Bam, right there.
Mm-hmm.
And the only exceptions, there will be an independent, like arbitrary sport board for medical exceptions. And that can be physical. It can be mental. It could be mental health absolutely matters.
Yeah.
I put all that into it. There needs to be, when you start college, I don't care where you start it. I don't care where you start it. You've got 5 seasons. Because most kids, as far as I can tell, more spend 5 years in college than 4 years now. That's sure what seems to be the case.
Yeah, because like a graduate degree. Whatever.
Yeah, or even just for undergrad, a lot of people are not more taking 5 years now, right? They work a job while they're doing it, right? So they don't have to do 16, 17 hours a semester, whatever it is. They'll do 9,
but then they
1,
have
12,
to fulfill the 5 years,
or they'll change majors, or whatever. But I think once you start 5 years. There have to be X amount of hours accumulated by the end of every year to continue. But this takes away who do you redshirt, who do you not, takes that out of it. So you're not, nobody's saying, I've played 3 or 4 games now. I don't want to play any more this season. I want to redshirt and then I want to transfer. Takes that out of the equation. You get 5 seasons. Unless you have a serious medical condition that's like 9+ months in length. And to take this out of everybody's hands, and I know people don't love the word committee. I get it. All right, I get it. But a committee of a few former college administrators, if any, but medical doctors who can look at documents and say, yes, this knee injury gives you a red shirt. It was serious enough. Or no, let's do these scans. Show me the scans. No, this doesn't count. Like, I'm sorry you had a cold for 2 weeks. You don't get to redshirt, Or someone who says, this is enough of a mental health problem.
I was going to say,
but you have to have somebody who clears this. And there is no perfect way around this. But I think, because you get to then, okay, what happens with LDS service? And I admit that's a tough one, because then could someone be like, okay, we've started a new religion and we do 2-year things too. And it's like, are you really one? the whole thing, there is no neat and proper way to do this, because you're going to make an exception for LDS athletes because that exception's always been made. But then you open up other kind of loopholes to, okay, Peace Corps or service of any kind, right? Where do you start drawing lines on this stuff? I'm trying to get as quickly as we can to a place where across the country at a federal level, these are the rules. And by the way, once you turn pro, you are done. Full stop, you are done. Now, that loophole leads to, what about people who come from other countries? Because they have club models, right? They don't have sports in the way we have them in this country. They're different. If you're a really good young Spanish basketball player, you're not playing for, Madrid High School. You're playing for Real Madrid, or you're playing for one of those clubs there. So you're not really a pro, but you kind of are, but you're not. And that is a thorny issue. But I would say that their model over there is pretty similar to what we do now with prep academies with sports and with travel ball stuff. I think I'm on board. I think that's fair. Now, what you don't want is a situation where, look at like college soccer, where so many players now are 24 to 25-year-olds who came from Europe and are older and have played pro ball. I get it, right? There is no perfect answer here. But I think, Emily, just once you start, 5 years. Do whatever you want with them. Go wherever you want, whatever. You get 5 of them.
I don't hate it. I just think that even if you were to reset everything, things would pop up regardless. I think that you could lay out as many case scenarios as you possibly can, reset it to 5 years, but there's always going to be people coming up with new things, which is fine. I don't think they're ever going to be able to get rid of that. And I think there is a way in which there can be certain boundaries built and lines drawn to work towards better outcomes and just like I don't know. There's this whole entire conversation is like exhausting if I'm being honest.
I hate people are like, I love the whole stick to sports people because I'm like, is this sports?
I just hate
our eligibility discussions really sports? Like, where are we drawing the lines on this? But until this does get sorted, we can't get back to business as usual because there is no usual. So you know what? If it's worth doing tomorrow, it's worth doing today. And I know I just said that the government's got bigger problems right now, and it does. But as soon as we can get to a place, if we can, knock on wood, to where things are sort of kind of normal again, this got to get fixed because there have to be some sort of rules. And like, 'cause if you don't tell somebody how, like if you were to say, you can have a 94-foot basketball court, but you can have a 47-foot one. You can have a 300-foot basketball court. You can have a court that's 300 feet wide. No, like there have to be some sort of rules here on what is what.
And the tricky part too is you would think that there would already be, I'm going back to the Bediaku case again, because that was just like the most outlandish thing ever. You would think that would already be a rule.
It was
like you would think that if you go pro, can't come back.
Pretty red line.
Pretty clear red line. That's why it's just, oh my goodness, it's so exhausting. And I do think that the whole redshirting thing, that didn't used to be a thing. What, like 7 years ago, or it was before COVID, right? I don't think.
Well, you could you've always been able to redshirt, but the rules on who was eligible and who wasn't, those have changed over the years and become a little more open-ended.
Redshirting rules should be a little bit stricter.
I think they should do away with them.
And
that's my argument. Just do away with them. Unless it is a clear, call it something else. But you have to go through a board.
Could you redshirt as many times as you want if you have multiple injuries, or no?
If they each and every one of them is consistent to like that whatever 9-month window or whatever it is, the length of a season.
Okay.
And or call it 6, 7, 8, whatever you call it. It's got to be something.
Yeah.
It can't be like I broke a nail.
Yeah.
I had a cold. I had a tooth pulled. You know, and so I can't play.
Symptoms.
So that flu-like symptoms. Flu-like symptoms. I know I also got arrested, but we'll call it flu-like symptoms. I was sick when I was in jail. I mean, it's. I just think this doesn't even touch on like how often you can transfer. Which, if I had my way, I would say, you get those 5 years. You get one free, no questions asked transfer. You only get a second one if your coach is fired or if you graduate. Then you get another free one because that incentivizes degrees, which I'm all about because that is what this used to be about.
Yeah.
So, get an education, guys. At some point, the ball's going to stop bouncing. You're going to have to do something else with your life eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not now. Who knows? But I just think there are common sense possibilities out there where we can say, okay, we're going to give you some wiggle room here, but here are red lines.
Mm-hmm.
These are very clear. This is when the clock starts. This is when it stops.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'll figure out the middle. But there's got to be a basic understanding. And I don't blame you. Talk about NIL causing all this. I don't buy that at all because that money's always been here. Now the players are just getting a chunk of it. And hey, fair's fair. You had a chance to make this easier on yourselves and you didn't take advantage of it. Now you're reaping the whirlwind of that. I separate the eligibility and then I don't super glue those things together. I think they are, I guess, sort of quasi-related, tangentially related. They're not apples and motor oil, right? Like they're somewhat similar things, but there's the money is not for me the entire. It is who can play this sport, who cannot, and should there be a lot of people in their mid-20s playing college sports? No, there should not be. Let's all agree on that. There should not be a bunch of people like 24, 25, 26, 27 years old playing college sports. That should not, anything you put on a board where that's the answer, you've done something wrong. Like, I don't know where you went wrong, but you went wrong because you're telling me you're doing the whole Goodwill Hunting thing on the board there, and then you're putting something at the end, and I'm like, yeah, redo this because however you got to this, you did it wrong. Something is wrong here.
Mm-hmm.
So let's figure out what are the most basic things. What are the most basic things?
Yeah,
you should not be 25, 26 years old playing college sports.
Yeah.
That's not what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and right now it's those players who are of that age, and hopefully we can wrap up this conversation soon, unless you have a lot more.
No, and it's the last point because we got to go to break anyway, and then we'll come back and talk some fun stuff here. But I think.
Wait, let me make mine first.
Please do.
So I think what you were saying about the age, right? Like the people, the players who are that age right now are the same players who are looking at other people reaping the benefits of these situations.
Absolutely.
So maybe if we get to a certain point where we have the red lines and we have, the
grandfather
the basic orders in place, then we can get to a place where, those players are so old they don't even think about it anymore, so I think it honestly just will take time. Like, it's not going to be something that is just as much as we all want it to happen very quickly and we want things to change very fast. I feel like there are so many cases right now with players who are trying to gain extra eligibility that I don't know how fast those red lines could be established. But I don't think any of the points you're making right now are bad. I think that they're valid, and I think most people would agree with them.
This is how I'll end it. I'll say this: if you want to make an argument that the Pavias and Aguilars, that they did not know or NIL was what it was or wasn't, if you want to grandfather people in for a couple of years, okay, I'll take that. That's fine. But at some point,
But they need to be weaned out.
if you say junior college seasons do not count and will not count, you are staring down the barrel of a bunch of 25-year-olds and 26-year-olds in college sports. That is exactly what will happen. I can tell you that as sure as the sun will come up tomorrow, that will happen. And that has to be avoided.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I don't like dealing in absolutes. But if you can't see where that's going,
Yeah. I think most people do see where that's going.
that's exactly where that's going.
And people have an issue with it 1,000%. So, but I do agree. I do agree that I don't hate the 5-year cutoff, baby. Let's do it.
Straightforward and simple.
Straight from the heart.
Yeah, 5 years or 25. 5 years or 25.
Wes Rucker
25.
is going to make it happen.
I was a little worried that your arm was going to be long enough to make that high five happen. So
What? Why do you got to do that?
I was just saying. I mean,
just had a
are we friends here? Can friends not be honest? I was just telling you I was concerned. That was all. But hey, concern was wrong. I was wrong.
Let's talk about another concerning thing that happened last night.
Yeah, that was Chris Beard had some concerns with the officials.
It is 41, folks.
Oh, what's that?
We got to do secret time real quick.
That's what I'm saying. We
Dang
got to step away, and then we'll have some secret time.
That was a good transition.
And we'll have some fun with it. Be right back here on 10 at 3.
All right.
Yeah, there was no way, and I'm glad that we.
That was an exhausting.
We could.
Oh
I mean,
it was
honestly,
an exhausting
can't.
topic because it's just
I
we could speak
hate it.
endlessly on this because every day it's like a new chapter in the story.
There's
keeps
just so
popping
many
up.
layers to it.
And it is. It's like the NCAA just
My
being
brain
the NCAA
doesn't have
on
the
this
capacity
one.
to talk
That's
about it.
like-
Like
but see,
that.
for me, it's like
Yeah.
it's like cleaning the bathroom, right? Like
Yeah.
you don't want to do it.
I hate
Yeah.
I
the
don't want to do it, but
bathroom.
you know what? The sooner that it gets clean, the sooner we'll all have a clean
Yeah, but
bathroom we can enjoy.
for
Like
sure.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just want it. Rip off the Band-Aid. Let's
But I
figure
don't
this
think
out.
people want to hear about it though. That's the other thing.
They do,
Like,
but
if you
it's-
talk about
yeah.
it the way that you're talking about it, I think people will enjoy it.
Yeah,
I
to
just-
your
I
point,
honestly
it's
ha-
like
like,
it's going
my
to take a
thoughts are
while.
like,
It will
ugh.
take years for this to kind of iron itself
Totally.
out, especially if we're dealing with court system stuff because that's
Ainsley
notoriously
got
not
us
fast.
Because we're talking about the oh nice we're talking
Ainsley got us
we're,
this.
we're talking about the the 90s famous the famous court case, and it was like what do you mean by the word is? Like, they could sit there and have arguments all day on what the word is means.
And then the disagreements between the different districts, as we've seen. Let's not go into it. It's just it's a lot.
Get it to federal
It's
court.
so much.
Get it to federal court.
Well, it is in federal court.
No,
That's the thing. It's,
well,
it's
the
going through
Aguilar
district
thing's in
court.
state court now.
Yeah,
I
some are in
think.
state. Well, yeah, but the district level
Did he
courts
send this
there,
to
they
him?
move
Yes.
up in the
Yes.
system there.
You
Whatever.
did.
Let's just, you know what? There are 50 of these states and some territories. Let's all have the same rules.
Did you
for
send
that.
this to Elijah?
All right, we got about
Oh, the picture of
25 seconds left.
No, I just tagged him in it because I wanted to
sent
see
it
it
to
when
him.
I was going to see how long it took him to find it. No, that's still good. How long did you say, Tom?
We got about coming up here on 10 seconds here, so stand by.
That gives me enough time to say I think this chair's still on the Robin Wilhoit setting.
I think it is, actually, because some folks are a little higher and lower than normal. Anyway, stand by 3.
Welcome back to 10 at 3. Wes Rucker and Emilie Ray Cochran and Tom Barclay here on a lovely. I say lovely. It's not lovely. On a Wednesday.
Let me prove that here for a second.
On a
that
Wednesday,
doesn't look
February
particularly
4th.
lovely.
Yeah, how's that? How's that lovely for you? That's
That's-
Sleepy Hollow, Knoxville,
It's
Tennessee.
foggy.
Yeah, that's
It's drizzling out there.
like
going
a
to be, I think, wintry mix tonight. It's just
Happy Holler meets Sleepy Hollow is what we got
Blech.
going on in Knoxville today. There's quite a lot going on that we've discussed with the legal stuff, that we've had going on. And
Can we shift the gears
Let-
there,
let's
please?
talk-
Tom's like, I don't want to hear about
Let's
this
talk a
anymore.
little ball.
We got like 10 minutes left.
Tom's like, this is the
I
1
want-
hour of non-news I
Tom,
get
I want
during
some
the day.
fun.
Tom, just play the video. We don't even need to
All right, you
intro
want
it.
to just go straight into it?
Let's go straight
All
into
right,
last
let's-
night
let's-
with
let's watch
Ole
it.
Miss's head coach Chris Beard getting tossed last night. Just such fun.
Gets the ball ripped away. And Beard's on the
that will
floor.
be a tee.
Oh, absolutely.
He might get tossed. He's probably going to get tossed.
Yeah, that's a technical foul on Beard, and he's been thrown.
Yeah. Well, he wants to be tossed. He knew exactly what he was doing. He's going back at him again. Or to his guys, I guess, for one last word. Nothing wrong with that. Got his last word into his guys, and then he'll go to the locker room.
Well, they played very hard in this game, and it was.
And that, courtesy to our friends at ESPN, that was the video from last night where Ole Miss coach Chris Beard rather hilariously got himself thrown out of a game. I will say this. I am all for a good, fun, proper ejection. I love it. And there's like the performative aspect of it that I love. And this goes back to like old school baseball managers, Bobby Cox before him, the long line of managers in the old school who did that. Now Tony Vitello does that. We've seen, Calipari in basketball does this, Bob Knight. We've seen guys over the years do this. However, don't run under the court while the ball's in play. That's dangerous. That part I do not.
He knew
like.
It was over when he did it.
And I get, like, if you want to make a stand and you want to make a point, you're like, this isn't even about this game.
Yeah, he
I'm
ran
making
into
a point.
Jacoby.
That I do not like. That's the only thing about this. Before we spend the rest of the time
Laughing
making
about
fun
it.
of that,
Yeah.
I will say, do that during a timeout.
Yeah.
Do that during it when the ball's at least when the ball's out of bounds. Don't be running out there when the live actions happen. That's how guys get hurt. But that was one of the better meltdowns that I've ever seen. Now, number one all time, without question, and I was so lucky to be there for it. Ron Wellman, years ago, Ron Wellman YouTube, his ejection from a Chattanooga Lookouts game years ago, where he basically, he put on like a 5-minute display of kicking dirt, and then he crawled behind. He basically took the rosin bag and acted like it was a grenade, and he pulled it and then he threw it like.
I remember that part now. I was like trying to think what you're talking about.
That and Kellen Winslow's
It was a whole
meltdown.
Show. It was like watching theater on the field.
Being able to see that and Kellen Winslow's ejection, both in or his I'm a Soldier meltdown, two of like the absolute highlights of my entire career. Those will be highlights of my entire life. I'm sorry to my family, but listen, hey, you weren't there, all right?
I wasn't, because I'm not old.
That's true. You're not.
Yeah.
You're not. But
thankfully. Right?
But that. I'm gonna try to get off. See if I can pick my dignity off the floor after that one. And
whatever.
That's what you get for talking about Hank. Okay.
That's true. That's true. But I do think that the point of that. And again, Beard said this after the game. He said, listen, if you go back and do your homework 30 years ago when Rick Barnes was at Clemson, he was doing the same thing, kind of standing up for his program, and I didn't feel like we were getting a fair whistle. And I feel like our officials are really good, but I think sometimes we're Ole Miss, and so we don't get, respect that others do. And I would say Ole Miss was shooting a lot of threes early last night, and that's a big part of that. But and that was a hard game to officiate. And also, Ole Miss had 3 fouls that were very, very hard. I only would call one of them dirty. That was the one to Bishop Boswell's mug. That one was a little.
I should have brought that video.
There was a little. That was extra. But the others were just some good old kind of classic hard basketball playoff fouls, I thought, and I have no problem with that. But that was a really, really fun meltdown. The running back at the end.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And I've had a lot of fun with this.
The jog, not even like a fast sprint to the huddle.
It was like a football coach coming. It was like a football coach coming onto the field with his players.
He was like, "All right, if they're not chasing me by the middle of the court, then I'll be fine to go." But then he like scared his team.
Well, I love.
They were scared of him.
There were so many.
They're like,
great
"Who the heck is touching
What
me?"
happened? Why?
It was so funny.
And
it was a jump scare.
And he, because the as the officers are trained to do when someone gets ejected, they politely escort them off of the playing surface, right? That's when football, basketball, baseball, this is what you make sure if they don't go immediately that you kind of go out there and say, hey, let's keep this from getting out of hand. Let's protect you and get you out of here, protect everybody else. Mm-hmm. But him swiping away at like, get your hands off me, and then going back in.
That's what the little jog made me so confused, because he did the aggressive. So first he like hit swung at the assistant coach, right? Ole Miss.
Yes.
He swung at his assistant coach.
Gave him a little shrug, like, get off me.
Yep, get off me. And then he did the same thing to the security. And then he did his little prance over to the huddle.
Yeah, it was.
And then he picked it back up with
categorized as a prance. Yeah,
it was a little bit of a show horse
fancy.
moment there.
Yeah.
Yeah. He'll be in the Tennessee walking course competition next year. But I think it was almost like he was like, I left my Diet Coke back there. Hold on. Or like, I forgot,
exactly.
I left my Zins back
That's
there.
what-
Let's
yeah,
go
you're
get
right.
it. Let's go to work.
It's that kind of non-concerned jog that you do. You know.
It was like, I left my stuff back there. Hang on. but shrugging off, it was just, and that's why I had a lot of Photoshop last night showing him getting kicked out of various bars around town. Because the picture,
Wes
if
loves
you see,
ChatGPT.
if you see the picture, you will see that it looks 100%
photo?
like somebody's getting kicked out of a bar. That is 100% what it looks like.
Did you do it?
Did you
Absolutely.
Did you put it on your Twitter?
I did last night, yes.
Let me pull it up.
I did that,
Keep talking, I got it.
after you get to that, there's one I had with Elijah today too that I had
Oh
fun with.
my God, we cannot show that.
We have to. It's already out there on Twitter. I'm
There
going to
it
show it
is.
anyway.
Well, there's Elijah. Oh, gosh.
Oh,
The Elijah one,
Yeah.
I had some fun with too, and because I was going through the photos and I was like, "Is that Elijah there?" Yeah, here we go. You got to show it in the sequence.
no, you have
Yeah,
to show the
show
sequence.
sequence. All right,
Yes,
here we
okay,
go.
so
Start
there he
here.
is in the
Hold on.
background.
Hold on. Let me pull it up.
And
here.
just so you guys know, he's shooting games for TV. We're
Yes.
shooting
So
the
This
games
is
for
his
TV.
posture
This is the way Elijah sits in his chair every single game.
in your
Yes.
life.
And he's a pro because
he's trying to get the best angle here.
He
You don't
still
wanna
gets
just,
the highlights,
Yeah.
even though.
But he's still like, I'm chilling.
So
He's
let's go to the
chilling.
next. We got to zoom on that.
Yeah, you're
so
like,
there
okay,
you go.
just so you're sure.
And
that's
then
Elijah.
finally we end with that,
Yeah.
which that doesn't look like Elijah.
You know where
who
this
is that?
photo should
Yeah,
belong?
who
Right
is
next to
this?
It
the-
looks like the recently departed actor from the Cosby Show, the Malcolm Jamal
Oh,
Warner.
yeah, actually,
A
It
little
looks
bit,
like
yeah.
he
A
should be on a float with Rick Barnes.
A
You know
little
that
bit. A little bit.
the meme with
They got
with Rick Barnes
the
and
pose
the
right
float.
though.
It was. I mean, they got the pose dead on, but the face they.
I told you they
some of the
messed with
faces
the
obscured.
face.
Some of the faces obscured.
Yeah,
That's not.
faces is
one
what you
of
tried to
yours.
get.
I still
Yeah.
disagree with. We will disagree about that forever, and I'm sorry to point.
I
but
already
we will
have-
disagree forever.
I already have people on my side about that.
Did you find the Chris Beard one? That would have been from late last night. Late last night.
All right, which
I
one
think
do we want
Wes
to use
tweeted
for
like
your?
300 times
Which
last
of
night.
these? You
You
want
have your
the bowling
squad
tweet or do you want the bar tweet?
This one.
We'll do the bowling tweet first. Hold on, let me get that up too. So here's bowling. Or no, that's a bar. I thought. Sorry, it looked from the thumbnail that it was. Oh, it's Cool Beans.
Is that before he jogged to the huddle?
That's him going to the bar. Although
that's what
his
that's when he
eyes are
goes
looking
back.
a little odd.
Yeah, I had him throw out a Cool Beans, and then I had.
you got this one.
Then I had Jalen Carey getting
Yeah.
tossed out of Clancy's.
And
Oh my God.
once again,
Hey,
Yeah,
Jalen
he's doing
Carey
a little-
sticking up for his teammates
little wacky
always.
stuff there.
And hey, Jalen Carey. We have a couple more days to discuss that game, so we'll have. But right now, let's give the people what they want, which is breakdown of all of the shenanigans last night. Because Jalen Carey is a guy. If you have stood next to this guy,
He's massive.
there's like basketball player big, then there's football player big. Jalen Carey's dad played in the National Football League for years as an offensive tackle. That's what Jalen Carey's built like. That's 6'8", 270-ish.
He's a defensive
not
lineman.
fat at all. That's a defensive end is what he looks like.
Yep.
He looks like an edge player, and not like a jack or like a, like he looks like a strong side defensive end. Like that's a big guy.
Yeah, he's so big.
Like, yeah, that's not like a jack. That's a strong side end, and
Yeah.
and it's or an offensive tackle even. That's what his dad was, and it's just he's the guy who Nate Ament said that. What was it? He was like, I learned this summer when I tried to dunk on Jalen Carey and I broke my wrist. He was like, you don't mess with the guy, and he said now having that guy at my back, oh, it's awesome. He goes, he's our bodyguard, he's our enforcer, and I was saying if for these Ole Miss guys. And others, if you have stood next to Jalen Carey as a basketball player, not a football player, that's a fair fight. If you're a basketball guy, you stand next to him and say, I'll take some of that action, you're either really, really strong, really, really crazy,
I guess we'll
or
see.
really, really stupid. Those or all three, because that is the only and it was almost like the first time when Ament got fouled hard, he got in there like, nope. And against Kentucky, when somebody, when Otega Owe slapped at Ament, he was like, "You can talk to me. Don't touch my guy." And then last night, when Boswell took that shot to the face, Carey turned around and was like, okay, now that's it. And they had to took a couple guys to pull him back, and even Rick Barnes was like, get your tail to the bench, basically. It was like
and then Nate Ament in the huddle gave him a high five.
Yeah, it was that. I'm just saying, of all the guys on that team, you give me one guy I don't want to fight. You're like, you have to fight somebody, but you can pick one you don't want to fight. Jalen Carey, number one, no question.
Dwayne Brown is also.
Dwayne Brown's a big guy, but Dwayne's also feels like he's a little more fun loving. Jalen Carey seems like he would go from 0 to you're in trouble in a hurry.
Yeah.
Brown might be a little more patient. He's an Alabama country kid. Might be a little more patient.
Where is Jalen Carey from?
Florida.
Did you mention the ending of the Kentucky game with him?
That's
probably what we could see.
That's when Otega
Saturday.
Oweh.
Yes,
and we're going to see that. And we got 2 more days to discuss that because we're about out of time today. But that's a showdown coming up on Saturday, and
we're going.
We'll be there. We'll be rolling the big rig up there. So we got 2 more days to preview that though, and gosh knows what's going to happen legally between now and then. So we will see. We'll discuss that. We'll discuss a lot more basketball. Obviously, Lady Vols got some huge games coming up too, including a big one this weekend. So we got that to talk about. We got the men. We got all kinds of stuff to talk about. But right now, I think. Unfortunately for y'all, or fortunately for y'all, depending on how you're feeling today, you don't have to have us for 23 more hours in your life. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks to Emily for being here. Thanks to Tom, as always. Most importantly, thanks y'all for watching and listening. We will see you in 23 hours.
Bye.